Today we're going to work on how to calculate slope, how to look at a graph and figure out what the slope of a line is, and how to use 2 points to figure out the slope of a line. But first let's figure out and talk about what is slope. Slope is vertical change of a line divided by horizontal change. So basically it is rise over run. It is how much does a line go up before it goes over? How much does a line fall before it goes over? So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at a line on a graph here on a coordinate plane. We've got our x, which is our horizontal axis. We have our y, which is our vertical axis. And first thing I want to do is just find any 2 points on the line. So I want to, let's say I look here. I've got a point that is at 0 on the x-axis, 2 on the y-axis, and I have another point here that is at 2, 5, just to show you the coordinates. Now to figure the slope, I want to rise first. So I want to start at the point and I want to count the number of units that it's going to go up. So in this case, I'm going up 1, 2, 3. I have a rise of 3. And I'm going to go over and run 1, 2 till I hit that point. So my slope of this line is 3 over 2. It is a positive rise 3 and a positive run 2. Since my line goes upwards to the right, it is a positive slope, as you see. If it were to fall and go from the top left going down to the right, it would possibly be a negative slope. Okay, so one thing we can do is we can look at any line on a graph and figure out its slope by finding 2 points and figuring out the rise over run. Another way we can interpret slope is using the slope-intercept form, and that is known as y equals mx plus b, where y is our y-intercept. Our slope is represented by our m, and our b is represented by our y-intercept. I misspoke, that is not our y-intercept. B is our y-intercept. So my example here is y equals negative 1/3 x plus 4. First thing I want to do is go to my y-intercept. Where does it intercept the y? So I want to find positive 4. If I go downward, all of my values are negative. So I want to go up to positive 4 and put a point. There is where my line intercepts the y-axis. Now, when I look at my slope here, I've got a slope of negative 1/3. And what that means is that it's going to have a vertical change of a negative 1, meaning it's going to fall. It's going to fall 1. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start at my point. I'm going to fall 1. And then it's got a run, a horizontal change of 3, which means now it's going to go over to the right, 1, 2, 3. And I've created a second point. I can do it again. Fall to the 1, go over 1, 2, 3. And if I connect these points, what I have created is a straight line. And I've done it just by getting a linear equation of y equals negative 1/3 x plus 4. Okay? The third way that we can determine slope, let's say we don't have a coordinate plane. We don't have a slope-intercept form. All we have is 2 points. We have 2 coordinates that are given. We have an x value and a y value, an x value and a y value. So if I were to graph these on a coordinate plane, I would have a point here at positive 5, 2 and a point here at positive 6, 8. What I'm going to use is something called the slope formula. And it's like this. It has the values of y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And you may be wondering, well, how do I determine what is y1, x1, y2, x2? Well, what you need to do is just as your points are sitting here, go ahead and label them. You've got x1, y1, x2, y2. And I like to go ahead and do this on all of my points because it helps me remember what they, the order that they go in, and I don't make any mistakes. So what I want to do is just now set them up in the formula to solve. My y2 goes first, 8, minus my my y1, which is 2. My x2 is my 6, minus my x1, which is my 5. So when I go ahead and do my subtraction, I have all positive integers here, so I just have 8 minus 2, which is 6. I have 6 minus 5, which is 1. And I would just plot those on there. Now I'm going to go ahead and check it since I have a coordinate plane already up here. I'm going to go ahead and just plot the points, positive 5. I'm going to walk over to 5. I'm going to jump up to 2. I've got a 6 and an 8, so I'm going to walk over to 6. I'm going to go up to 8. And I can see how steep this line really is. Well, let's check the slope. According to my work here, my math says that my slope is a positive 6 on my rise and a positive 1 on my run. So let's check that. I'm going to start here at my point, and I'm going to rise 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I run 1, and it does check out, so I know that my slope is correct. So there are a few different ways that slope can be interpreted. The first thing is that you can look at a graph and find 2 points and count your rise over run. Another way is just to look at a linear equation, identify the y-intercept through b and what the slope is through m. And then the third way is to figure out slope is to use the slope formula where you have 2 coordinates and you label them x1, y1, x2, y2, and then you complete the formula by doing y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1.